give it a shot?
Okay.
Okay. Call to order the Town of Somers Planning and Zoning Commission, Thursday, August 13th, 2026. First item of new business, application PZC 26-009, Mason St. Pierre application site plan approval to convert 138 Main Street, Somers from mixed-use commercial residential to fully residential with a total of 4 dwelling units in the Village Business District. Can you just...
I have a question. The applicant and the owner are two different people?
So basically, it's a partnership. They just went under contract to purchase,
Okay.
and it was approved. So it's still owned by the woman who's selling it, and the applicant is there. They haven't formed an LLC yet, but just all as part of the purchase. That's why it's
They're
different.
going to be partners in...
138 Main Street is for sale. They put
Right.
an offer in.
Understand.
It got accepted, and they're going through the inspection process and all of that. So that's why it's different.
Okay, can somebody who doesn't own the property actually apply to have us change the status of the property, is my question. Yes, they can. Okay.
And this, so this application, and Mike's here to explain. I got the application, put it first on the agenda. I mean, it can be second, but the text amendment that we're proposing tonight is what we have to do to comply with.
Oh, I'm sorry, am I looking at the wrong one? I apologize.
No, I put it reversed, so I think I gave away on here's my agenda.
Number 2 plays an effect to number 1.
Okay.
Right.
Well, number 1, we have to accept and process because the statute came into effect July 1st.
Yes.
There we go.
Which Mike's going to explain the changes that are required, but basically, it's site plan review. You can't hold a public hearing on this type of an application, and you have to allow 3 to 9 units. You know, more than 2, up to 9, but I guess I don't know if I'm not making sense. Right?
No, you're making sense.
The other thing that kind of confused me, and maybe that comes up later, is it's a mixed-use property. It's still the same number of units. You're not changing the number of units, right? You're changing the status of a unit?
The bottom floor is commercial right now, and they want to convert those into at least one whole first floor apartment, or depending on the fire code and what they have to do, make it a 4 family. So they're going to do 3 or 4 family, right?
Right.
But if it's mixed use, do they really need to apply to change the purpose of the use?
Well, right now, our zoning regulations hadn't allowed this.
Okay.
I mean, it says site plan review. I mean, it's kind of a formality.
Okay.
Is that septic there?
I think it might
Or not septic, sewer.
I think it's sewer, and I emailed you guys the site plan. I have it here. There's plenty of parking.
Yeah. I can see 29 spaces. More than
That's
that.
more than
At the window,
Or-
when you go through, there's plenty of excess capacity in the sewer system for 2 more residences.
Yeah.
Okay.
What are lighting requirements? Parking? Or?
Well, parking, I mean, the new statute has pretty much taken away almost all of your power to regulate parking for residential units. What took place on July 1st, or what became effective on July 1st, basically the statute says you can only regulate parking for residential uses to the extent that the state allows you to do it, and it doesn't allow you to do it for very much. So this is because this is only a 4-unit. They're really you no longer have the statutory basis to regulate it for parking, except if you were to find that the lack of parking creates a significant public health or safety issue.
How many bedrooms each unit? Does that matter?
I'm not sure.
Does that matter?
No.
I'm sorry.
How many bedrooms a unit?
No. I mean, the statute just deals with units. Let me read you what it says. It'll only take a second to read you what it says.
And another few to explain it.
What's that?
Another couple to explain it anyway.
It'll take about half an hour to explain it. Most of the land use lawyers I know don't understand half of what's in here because it's
Well,
so
that's your
poorly
choice.
written. Except as provided in subsections B and D, no zoning enforcement officer, planning commission, zoning commission, or combined planning and zoning commission shall reject an application for any residential development solely on the basis that such development fails to conform with any requirement for off-street motor vehicle parking spaces, unless such officer or commission finds that a lack of such parking spaces will have a specific adverse impact on public health and safety that cannot be mitigated through approval conditions that have no substantial adverse impact on the viability of such development. So putting that into layman's terms, except as otherwise provided, you can't reject an application for lack of parking unless you find that it creates a public health and safety issue and that issue can't be mitigated by reasonable conditions.
For example, if you have a very narrow street and you're going for on-street parking and you would be unable to get fire apparatus by it, then you could do it. But other
Possibility,
than
yeah.
something like 190, it's a wide road, you
Right.
have very little stand on.
Exactly.
It's village business, so right, if there are some units on, in our village business, parking might be an issue because it's a state highway. So that would be it.
Yeah, I mean, well, again, you would have to find a substantial public health and safety issue, and if the applicant said, well, you know, there are ways I can mitigate it or whatever, you would have to consider that, whether there's real mitigation. The two exceptions to that is if the residential number of residential units is going to be more than 16, you can regulate them.
Okay.
But still, they put a limit on how much parking you can demand. If it's less than 16, it says you can create very small districts within your community, and they can't be any more than 4% of the total area of your community where you can regulate these things. You haven't done that yet, and it really is. Pardon my check, if you will. It wouldn't amount to a piss hole in the snow to regulate them. So that's what you're stuck with. So here you have a fairly small development. It's clearly less than 16. So under this new statute, unless you found a public health and safety risk.
Can I make a motion to approve PZC 26-009?
Any conversation? All in favor? Aye. Next item on the agenda, application PZC 26-010, Summers Planning and Zoning Commission, Jennifer Roy, ZEO, text amendments to comply with Public Act 25-1, Section 16 regarding middle housing requirements.
Okay, so what you're looking at, first of all, the definitions, these are definitions that come out of the state's statute as well. And because the statute refers to them and talks about things that you have to allow, it's better to have them defined. So everybody's on the same page as to what these things mean. So cottage cluster, that's one of the things that the statute uses. A perfect six, that's one of the things that the statute uses. One of the most annoying things is they have this word or term they call transit community middle housing. In the Act, this is the Act. I mean, it's really, there's a lot of crap in here. In the Act, they talk about transit communities and what transit communities are and how you define them and things that transit communities can do and so forth, and benefits that transit communities can have. And then they define transit community middle housing. But they don't define that in a way that limits it to transit communities. So it just says a transit community middle housing is a residential building containing not less than 2 dwelling units, but not more than 9 such units, including, but not limited to, townhouses, duplexes, triplexes, perfect sixes, and cottage clusters. So there are those two words again, perfect sixes and cottage clusters. You'll notice in the definition that it talks about a residential building, and then it goes on to say, but it includes cottage clusters, which are more than one building. Mm-hmm. So even the definition is inconsistent. But the thing that I think most communities have a problem with is the fact that they look at transit community and they think, oh, that must mean we have to be a transit community. No, it doesn't. So We define it in here because that's the way the statute defines it, but it doesn't mean you have to be a transit community. All right, so Section 16 of the Act is what talks about, and that's just amended a statute that already exists. What it says is, on and after July 1, 2026, any zoning regulations shall allow for the development of a transit community middle housing development on any lot that is, or a mixed-use development on any lot that is zoned for commercial use or mixed-use development, subject only to summary review. And summary review is similar to site plan review, but it's more restrictive in the sense that you can't hold a hearing on these applications. So it's a very strange statutory provision. They're basically telling you, we don't want you to have a public hearing. It's hard to have a public hearing on site plan review anyway, because you're still confined by that 65-day decision period. You can't expand it even when you have a public hearing. And so it's hard to hold a public hearing for site plan review anyway. But this statute is the first one that says you cannot do it. We don't want you to do it even if you have an option to do it. We don't want you to do it. So it also talks about summary review is also supposed to involve conditions of approval or specifications that are pretty much black and white, that they're non-discretionary, and that's a tough one, because a lot of site plan review criteria include things like considering the impact on traffic, considering the impact in the environment, and so forth. And those are all discretionary. So because this is so new, it hasn't been litigated. There haven't been any cases yet in which a judge has found, okay, what type of criteria are too discretionary and not black and white enough? And because of the length of time it takes to go through litigation, we're probably not going to know the answer to that for at least a year, if not more. There probably won't be cases coming out on that for at least 6 months. And then, of course, there's always the chance of appeal. So it's always better with these kinds of applications if you have black and white criteria, but because so much is unknown, my thought was, and we've discussed this, is let's not take away any of our criteria just yet. Let's reserve the right to argue that our criteria are effectively non-discretionary. They have a range of places you can go, but they're not discretionary in the sense that it's a criteria, we know it when we see it kind of criteria.
No. You're talking about things like line of sight radius, or you're coming out of a street access and things like that.
Yes.
Those are black and white. Sort
exactly.
We'd like you, we want you to have barrier bushes between you and your neighbor is a far more
correct.
Discretionary. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. But I mean, if you had a criterion that said, the commission has to be satisfied that there will be no environmental impacts, that one's not going to fly, because that one, who knows what that means?
I'm not sure that's physically possible.
I'm sorry?
I'm not sure it's physically possible to do something with no environmental impact.
Yeah, exactly. So it gives too much discretion. On the other hand, one of the kinds of criteria that's a little bit harder to gauge is where you say you have to have, let's say you have to have vegetation that adequately screens the use from the neighbor. You could certainly, the developer could argue, well, that's discretionary. Adequately screens is discretionary. I think a possible response to that is no, it isn't, because reasonable people shouldn't be able to disagree on whether or not you can see something. Can you see it? Yes. Okay, you haven't screened enough. Is it invisible? Yes. Okay, you have screened enough. So I think in that sense, those kinds of criteria are probably okay. But those are the ones that are sort of on the line that will be thought about. My thought on this is when you get an application and you're worried and you're looking at your criteria and you're concerned about something and you want to say, we don't like this, we don't think this meets the criteria, and you get an argument from the developer that that's a non-discretionary criteria, then you're going to have to consider it more carefully, but there may be opportunities to work it out, because the developer doesn't want to have to go to court either. So you may be able to say, well, look, would you be willing to do this or that, and work it out online. But just realize that this summary review is slightly different from site plan review. Okay, so that's why this Article 4, 214-4.3 adds site plan approval with summary review. Okay. The next page, mixed use buildings containing business and residential uses within the same building. Now, this was for one of your commercial zones, right? Is that?
Yeah, the village business, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So this is one of the ones where, again, this new section 16 says that you have to allow these transit community middle housing developments or mixed-use developments on any lot that's zoned for commercial or mixed-use development. So these new regulations were designed to reflect that new statutory requirement. So mixed-use buildings are now summary review. So you see the SUP gone, and summary review is needed. Mixed proximate residential with 9 or fewer dwelling units, summary review. And then mixed proximate residential with more than 9 dwelling units is still special use, because this statute defines transit community middle housing as 9 units or less. So you're not confined after 9 units. Same thing down with your village business district down below. 2-family building, that qualifies as transit community middle housing now. So now you're back to summary review on that. Transit community middle housing of greater than 2 units, summary review for that. You do have certain criteria, for instance, that you've got. There shall be at least 40,000 square feet of contiguous buildable area. Those are discrete black and white criteria, so you can keep those. So that's why that's changed. But because it's transit community middle housing of greater than 2 units, you have to go summary review. If it's greater than 9 units, it's no longer transit community middle housing, as you said in here. So, okay. Next page, site plan applications. The change that was made is site plan applications subject to summary review shall follow the same procedures as other site plan applications, except that public hearings shall not be required or scheduled for such application, because that's what the statute says. And again, there was this language that COG had proposed where it's basically tracking the statute, where it says it's able to be approved in accordance with the terms. But that's that confusing language that hasn't been really looked at by the courts yet. And so my thought was, don't put that in yet. Don't put in a confusing provision from the statute into your own regulations. Let's wait and see what happens. Let's see if somebody comes to you and you get an issue about how discretionary your criteria are. And so then we had to add, excluding site plans subject to summary review, for new construction or other activity considered to be significant, the commission may hold a public hearing. And I think you had the form standards. They recommended certain form standards, or?
Yeah.
Okay. So I didn't have anything to do with that. You might want to. Okay. So that's basically why these provisions are being recommended, just to comply with this new state law.
So generally for a text amendment, we have to refer to CROG. CROG
Yeah.
created these.
Yeah, but in this case, CROG has already given you comments.
So we don't have to refer to CROG
I don't think you do
and hold a public hearing because it's a text amendment.
I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah, I mean, theoretically, you still have to do that. It's kind of ridiculous because CROG is
Chose a few towns to help because we don't have a town planner.
Yeah.
And it's the hat that I kind of wear. But they helped me with this.
Okay, so let's send it back and see if they like their work.
Right. Mike did
A different
tweak it.
person might look at it and it'll come back completely different.
Although I
because
have
you
one
said-
other thing, that we just have
Yeah.
a technicality to add to it, that
Okay.
the zoning, the ZBA
Yep.
section, we need to take that out and just put C zoning,
Oh, right.
ZBA
Oh,
regulations.
right, yeah, from that, yes, yeah.
So I guess that is what we're considering. Because the zoning regs contain all the instructions and steps for the ZBA, and that's not your purview.
Yeah, and, almost every town I know of has done this. They have a section called Zoning Board of Appeals, and they put in all of these provisions for the Zoning Board of Appeals. What state law says is that the Zoning Board of Appeals shall determine how it operates, and there are specific state law provisions for how it operates. So there have been actually some cases where Zoning Board of Appeals made a decision based on a zoning regulation talking about what the ZBA can do, and the court struck it down and said, you can't tell the ZBA to do something different from what the state tells it to do. So there are some provisions in your current regulations that wouldn't fly under the statute. So the better thing to do is just,
Shave those off before they become a problem?
yeah.
And, this came up because of the recent influx of complaints of zoning enforcement. And it had that you could appeal an enforcement order within 30 days. You have 30 days to appeal it. So I wanted it to be reduced to 15 days, and which Mike said the ZBA has the authority to change that without having any public hearing if it's their rules. So we went through the process and we created Zoning Board of Appeals rules and regulations, and we reduced it to 15 days. So the formality is take out that section that says any of that.
Yeah, that will be confusing because people will look at the zoning regulation and say, well, that says 30 days.
Right. So I'll add that to aside from this housing and stuff, I'll add that page to official.
So are you looking for a motion to refer this to CROG and schedule a public hearing, or do we need to do the CROG thing and then later schedule?
No, you can do it simultaneously. We have to actually give credit the public hearing date
Okay.
on the form.
Then I make a motion that we schedule application PZC 26-010.
Well, the soonest you can do it is September 14th. 14th, and our meeting is usually.
Who's here on the 14th?
That's Monday.
Why would we do it? I have an ambulance shift. Why would we do
Your
it on Monday?
regular meeting is September 10th, but we have to give 35 days, right?
Could we do a special meeting on the 17th and move the business from the 10th to the 17th?
Yeah. We
Does that work for?
Make a motion for that.
Brad did.
I apparently did, yes.
September 10th at 6 p.m. I mean, September
September
17th.
17th, 6 p.m. for the public hearing, and hopefully we can transfer any business from the 10th to that day. And
I won't be able to make it the 17th. If we have 5 people, that's fine.
let's see, do we have 5 people? I can do it.
I can do it.
Two.
Phone on me to look at my calendar.
He didn't bring his calendar.
How quickly do we have to do it?
Well, I mean, you already acted on something tonight that is kind of based, that's another interesting question, because, I mean, state law says your regulations have to do this and can't do that. So, basically, even if your regulations aren't changed, if somebody
Or
comes in with the...
they're not in compliance with the law, so we can't enforce them.
Exactly, yes, I mean, you would have to go along with the state statute anyway.
Right, so whether we do it or not,
Right,
we
we have
have
a right
to
to
follow
apply.
the rules, but
Because then could we just have our regular meeting on the 10th and then
how about
public
we
hearing
do
in
a public
October?
hearing on October 8th?
Yeah.
I make a motion we do a public hearing on October 8th for
Teamwork
PZC
makes the dream work,
26-010.
Second.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Next item on the agenda is the staff report.
If you don't mind.
Thank you.
If something comes up,
I was going to actually try and present to you the zoning enforcement policy that I have, and Mike helps tweak that as well. because of the recent influx of complaints about how I'm handling things, and really it's the purview of the Planning and Zoning Commission to, guide my enforcement. But I was busy out enforcing today, so I couldn't make copies.
So she's
and I was going to type
a
it.
badge and a gun?
I was going to type in what you're going to give me a gun.
I think if you're going to go out and enforce things, we should seriously enforce things. At the night out, the state police had this very nice truck there.
yeah?
Get you one of those. I'm sure there's federal money for that.
Good. So when it was just the zoning commission, when we had a lot of activity going on, I would kind of give like a zoning enforcement activity sheet, bullet point, and I was going to do that too. I had good intentions to do that for tonight too. But so for tonight, my staff report is just going to be verbal. I've received a couple of complaints about Brian Giuliano working outside of hours, starting at 7:15 instead of 7:30. And there was also, with that rainstorm we had, there was a lot of runoff and erosion. Our erosion control agent is Joanna Shapiro. She's not in on Mondays. I was in. We got the videos and the information. So in the zoning regs, there was a couple of sections that would apply to stormwater management and soil and erosion. And I can send you guys a copy of it if you want it. But again, with the help of Mike, I don't want to take all the credit. He's helped me. He tweaked it again too. So we drafted an enforcement order for what we could, and I had it served via Marshall, which some selectmen have asked me to do that, to be heavy-handed on certain things. So that was sent out, and Joanna did send out her notice of violation. They're actually meeting now for show cause for the erosion control measures. We did actually go today, and that was half my afternoon. We spent well over an hour there a little while ago, going around the site with Brian. He's already started to put silt fencing and do work. Their order technically said he couldn't even do the use that you guys have provided under the special use permit. So that's another reason why we went all around the site. It's really what he's doing up there, what you have approved, I don't feel is causing the erosion
Well,
problem.
not for nothing, but half of Bald Mountain was in my driveway Monday.
Was it? Yeah,
Really,
so,
the runoff on Scully was, and that's just, it was hard and fast.
yeah, it really was. He's done a lot of work up there. He cooperates. I got a complaint this morning. 2 emails that he was working after hours. One was at 6:02. One was at 6:47 from another person.
He stopped at 6:02, or he was
He was working. So when we went today, I said, well, one was at 5:51. Anyways,
What are the scheduled hours of the zoning enforcement officer?
mine, 8 to 5.
Okay. And what provisions do we have for managing or policing activities outside of those hours?
If it was really egregious, we could send, the police, but I don't get my email notifications.
No, I mean, that's kind of
Yeah.
my question. I mean,
Right.
people are complaining that you're not enforcing stuff during hours you're not in operation. The town budget doesn't really allow for 24/7 zoning enforcement.
Yeah, well, so the
you
goal
know-
of these complaints is, and they've spoken to the Board of Selectmen a few times about myself, land use, the Giuliano, they wanted an injunction. And Ken Slater, who's also from your office, who's now our official town attorney, confirmed with us that there was no imminent danger for him starting at 7:15 or, and they keep saying that
What are
he's
the hours? 7:30 to.
7 to 4. No, 7:30 to 4. And last night, so when I saw Brian today, and we were talking to him, I said, by the way, he was actually just moving some equipment and something that he's getting ready for the 250 celebration, because he's going to have something there holding the big flag. So he was moving it from up top there to down
So that
below.
wasn't even work, wasn't even project
It
related.
wasn't, right, it wasn't, exactly. So,
No, I mean, when you talk about, there's 2 issues that I'm hearing here. One is whether or not he's strictly adhering to the regulations that he's put before us, which is, one issue. The other issue is complaints about the effectiveness of zoning enforcement. And I think, for me, there's sort of a test of reasonableness when you look at hours of operation and things like that as to whether or not people are doing their job. I mean, it's not the fire department, the police department. There's no expectation of 24/7 zoning enforcement in our regulations. I'm not sure the selectmen would appreciate adding it to the budget.
I couldn't agree with you more.
But I don't want to see those two issues conflated.
I'm sorry?
I don't want to see those two issues conflated. I mean, those are two things.
Yeah,
And when they become one thing,
yeah.
it becomes targeting a person rather than
They are.
targeting whether or not, someone is following the rules.
I mean, we give, I say we, some of my colleagues and I, we give classes every year on zoning enforcement. I mean, days of classes, which is part of what, Jen had to take in order to get her certification. And one of the things that my segment is all about the practical realities of zoning enforcement. And people who complain often don't understand all of the variables that you have to take into account when you're deciding how to do something. Some of the variables are how many complaints are you getting at once, just as you've said tonight, what time is available for this. Another big one is what kind of cooperation are you going to get from these landowners who are complaining if you have to go to court? Are they willing to come and be witnesses? Are they willing to testify? Oftentimes they think all they have to do is complain and that's it, and they don't have to do anything else. But I tell my ZEO students, if you go to court and you haven't seen the violation and you don't have anybody to testify about the violation, the court's not going to do anything for you. The court might throw you out and say, well, this is frivolous. You don't have any real evidence. And then there are the kinds of things that Jen is talking about where somebody says, well, he's working after hours. Well, how do you know he's working? He's allowed to drive a truck back and forth.
There's a motor running after.
Yeah, so I mean, how do you really know? Those are all intractable kind of problems. And the cost of litigation is outrageous.
The cost of everything is outrageous.
Oh, but I mean, litigation is particularly outrageous because it's well over $1,000 just to file a complaint in court. It's $300 and something just to file it. You got to pay $100 something to have a marshal serve it, and then you got to pay your lawyers to prepare the darn thing, which is hours and hours of work at how many hundreds of dollars an hour. And so you're well over $1,000 by the time you get to court, and then it's delay and delay and delay, and so all of these things that somebody has to take into effect. And if you're dealing with a potential violator who's the least bit reasonable, the best way to try to address the problem is get the violator to stop. Use the soft touch and see if the violator will cooperate. If the violator is, somebody who's just not going to cooperate, then you issue the orders. If they don't comply with the orders, then you may go to the next step. But this business of, he was operating at 6 o'clock, let's go out for an injunction. I mean, that's la-la land. It really is. And people don't appreciate that. A lot of people that complain don't appreciate that. It's a very difficult job. It's extremely difficult.
In this particular case, it's targeting too. It's two individuals that are repeatedly filing the complaints.
Yeah.
So it gets into a difficult area too, where they're not getting what they want.
Right.
They don't seem to understand.
Yeah, they don't. To them, it's very simple. You've got a zoning enforcement officer. The zoning enforcement officer should.
This is the rule.
Yeah.
It says so here.
Yeah. So, yeah. So I mean, just given the kind of work that I do, giving these seminars on the practical reality of zoning enforcement, I get pretty exercised about this myself. When people come down on the zoning enforcement officer and come down on the town without really trying to understand what the town and the ZEO are dealing with, anyway. That's my soapbox.
I get it. I mean, sometimes I get the feeling, and I'm new to the zoning side of this, but that people almost view zoning as like your condo association. Somebody did something wrong, so, we can drop a ticket in their mailbox and they got to pay it or they're
Right.
stuck, as
Yeah.
opposed to, all the due process rights you have because you're dealing with the government.
Right.
I mean, as a government agency, we have a serious responsibility for due diligence that a condo association just doesn't have, and we can't have frivolous rules because everybody likes the idea.
Right.
And that's,
Yep.
So is there something we have to do tonight, or just you to?
No, I just wanted to, it's my, like, a unofficial, not written staff report, and I will do it more officially. I'll make copies of the zoning enforcement policy, because with all of the complaints and the several visits that they paid to the Board of Selectmen, my supervisor, Jeff Catley, he's our new director of land use and our health department, public health and sanitary, he's everything. He and I came up with a complaint form, because there was a complaint that we don't write official reports every time we do an inspection. I'm not going to write a report. If I did a sign sweep today, do I write a report and list every corner that I pulled a sign out? So we came up with a form that, for these, bigger things, that I, jot notes on it, because they weren't happy that we go out to the site and then we email the applicant and then they remedy it, not applicant, owner, whatever. Like, we would email Brian, he would address it, and they weren't happy about that. So that's, trying to make a long story short, Jeff and I, presented to the Board of Selectmen, okay, we can, tighten things up a little. Here's a form that I created, and then here's the zoning enforcement policy, just so you're aware of it, and we broke it out as to severity, what action steps I take. If somebody hasn't cut their lawn, I'm going to call them and say cut their lawn, rather than give them a cease and desist or cease and correct. One of the selectmen thought that they were like the authority to approve or not the zoning enforcement policy, and I told them that it's really planning and zoning commission. So I'm just letting you guys know.
I said at the next meeting.
For the next
we're gonna be
meeting,
long
it's more
involved.
official, and I can email it to you ahead of time, so you have time to read it. And if you have suggestions, again, Mike really elaborated on my original policy. It went from 1.5 pages to 4 pages. That's okay.
That's what lawyers do.
That's what I want. That's what I need.
It's because there are so many paths that these things can go.
And people don't, the complainers about me, or that, they just think it should be black and white, and it's really not.
Are you having problems, in Brian's case, with him complying when you go and talk to
No,
him?
we were just there for over an hour.
But I mean, if there's an issue that you bring up, is there an issue with him complying with it?
No.
Okay, well
He
then,
cooperates, he responds.
then why would we go to court? Why would we
Do an
go through all
injunction. Right.
You got it.
Right.
Right,
That's the question.
This is
Right.
this isn't drug dealing.
You say stop that, he says, okay, it's on until the next thing, he doesn't stop. Or does new, or the next complaint.
And some of them might not be accurate complaints too, like the moving of the
Oh,
truck.
and some of them don't require. So within the complaint that I issued, the enforcement order, I issued that within 4 hours of getting it. By noon it was issued, and that Marshall picked it up by like 2. So
If I had a budget, I'd wonder who the marshal's pay was coming out of, but we don't have a budget, so.
well, it's coming out of land use, out of our legal fees, which is probably maybe negative for this fiscal year already.
Okay.
So also, under staff, your approval of Oak Ridge Dairy has been appealed
Okay.
by a resident. So we have another lawsuit pending,
Well, it's going to be a lawsuit one way or the other. So.
Right.
pending litigation.
Interestingly, it hasn't been filed in court yet.
No?
No. I checked today.
Wasn't it supposed to be? I thought it was filed like the...
They put a September 1st return date on it, so in theory, they have until around the 24th
Oh.
of August to file, but I don't know why they just didn't file
Well,
it.
they're appealing your decision. It's a resident.
Well, I didn't think the dairy would appeal our
A
decision.
resident, like, abuts the
In a-
property.
Yeah. There's not much to say in it. I can email it.
Well, that's now a judicial process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we get involved if, when any of our testimony is needed, but we have no actions to take.
Right,
Right.
they want your,
We've done our bit.
they want your approval overturned, and they're seeking financial, I thought I was going to bring it down to it. Today was just a great day.
Reimbursement.
Well, they're not.
For their legal fees and costs.
Yeah, they won't get that.
Yeah.
Even if they won, they won't get that.
I'm just letting you know.
Oh, thank you.
I'm not, by the way, I'm not particularly worried about this appeal, so.
No. But I think that's it for
I think
today.
you people do a good job.
Thank you.
Especially you. Especially you.
And this too, you know.
Well, attorney, when we screw up, you make money, so we're doing a good job for you or for us?
Nobody believes me when I say this, but really, I don't like having to charge commissions much money. That's why, Mike, I moved from larger firms because they wanted me to keep bumping up my hourly rate. I don't want to do that, so I moved to a different firm that won't, so I don't want to charge you money. I like helping.
I saved the time, I saved your question till I got here tonight.
While you're on the clock. We appreciate that.
Anything else from your staff report, or?
Not that I can think of at the moment, so.
Thanks for sharing.
It's getting late. Maybe we should table the conservation wetlands representative.
Yeah, let's do that. Motion to table the conservation wetlands.
All in favor, aye. Approval of minutes from July 9th. Do I have a motion to approve? Second?
Abstain, wasn't here. Can we vote if we?
No, you probably shouldn't, well, unless you watched the video and then read the notes.
I did not watch it. I read the notes. I did not watch the video. So I
But all in favor?
Aye.
You can, the three of us.
motion to adjourn.
Whoa! I don't like this.
Okay,
All in favor?
sorry that you're late.
Thank you.
Good to see you all.